This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Yeah. So we're gonna try to be timely, and I know that Martha, you said you had to leave too. So
Margaret. Yeah, it's Margaret.
Margaret,
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Happens all the time. It's either Barbara or Martha.
Right. I mean, it's either Stacy or Tracy
Yeah.
for me. Anyway, welcome. We're gonna start our meeting. I wanted to let everybody know I do not have the April minutes because I didn't get a chance to get them from David. So when I get those from David, then we will approve them at the next meeting. All right. So we're going to pass on the approval of April meeting minutes, and we're going to go right into public speak. So, and I know that you all know about public speak and whatnot. We're just, we have a time that you can say what you need to say. We can ask questions. We won't be able to vote on anything or discuss anything later in the meeting, but we could possibly put it on an agenda for another. It has to be posted on the agenda for us to talk about it. The other thing that I would ask is that you just be, I know that there's, I am aware, I'm not sure who all is aware about what's happening at Cottage Street, but so that we can be of service to you. I mean, if you can be specific on what you need help from us, that way we can actually, make things happen, okay, and vote on it or discuss it at a later date. All right?
And I will just add, we could just do a quick round of introductions.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'm Pasqualina Azzarello, and I'm the Arts and Culture Program Director here at Easthampton City Arts. Very glad you all are here.
Hi, my name is Tracy Yeller. I am the chair of ECA. I'm also a photographer that lives in Eastworks. And I'm glad you were here today too. Thank you for coming.
I'm Ted Perch. I'm a member of this committee, and that's short and sweet.
I'm Felicia Jadzak. I use her pronouns. I am a member of this committee and I am a DEI consultant.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Felicia.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Colacelli, member of this committee, resident of New City, and I run a mobile donut company called Week the Dead Donuts.
Nice. And I'm Margaret Larson. I've been at Cottage Street for 16 years. My husband and I ran a woodworking school there for a very long time. And now we have a woodworking shop and a golf simulator on the first floor. So we have about 4,000 square feet on the first floor.
My name's Daniel Kelm. I've been in Cottage Street for over 39 years now.
Wow.
And I'm a book artist and sculptor. Started making traditional books after a career in chemistry. And now I make books that people don't recognize as books because they're really just kinetic sculpture. Not just, I shouldn't say just.
Don't say just.
Yes, they're kinetic sculpture.
I'm Ellen Coteen. I'm a photographer, and I had a studio there for 18 years. And I worked in this building for 12 years and was one of the founders of Easthampton City Arts. So it's nice to be with you all.
Nice to have you here,
Nice to
Ellen.
have you. Yeah. Wow. So, who would like to?
Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Thank you, Star.
Okay. So I'm not sure how much everyone knows about what's happening at One Cottage. At about the third week in April, we received a letter from management saying that all of our rents are going to increase to $15 a square foot. Many of us who've been there for a very long time are paying anywhere between 6 and 10 right now. We have new people who've come in are paying more in the 10 to 12 range. The very newest people with small spaces are paying about 15. So this came as a shock to us. We had a meeting with the CEO, with Lynn Ireland, and at that meeting, we were essentially told we're not part of Riverside's mission, even though as tenants, we have supported Riverside's mission, and many of us believe we made it possible for Riverside to exist because they had that big building that was given to them. It has been an albatross around their necks for a very long time, and the artists made it possible for them to keep the building and stay in business. And so now we are in a position where a good many of us will be displaced. We're also seeing, unfortunately, which rents are already going up. Self-fulfilling prophecy in some ways. The other thing that I think people should know is that we have made 2 requests to meet with the board. One request was verbally denied by the chair of the board, just to me and my husband. We got no response to the second request. So they aren't speaking to us. We're not allowed to meet with them. Management doesn't want to hear from us, and they have hired a property manager. And we would like some assistance in getting the board to the table so we can have a conversation.
And just to be clear, in case anyone doesn't know, Riverside Industries is the owner of the building, and they are also a nonprofit organization, so have a board of directors.
Yes,
in
thank you
case.
for, yes. And we love Riverside. We've cared for their tenants, we've worked with their tenants. It's just our artist community has always been so closely connected with Riverside, and so this is a blow in so many ways. Financially, of course, but also emotionally for a lot of us.
I think too that, I think what's happening with Riverside is really indicative of what may hit Easthampton hard. I think Easthampton, most people acknowledge that the revitalization of Easthampton is due in no small part to the arts and the culture. And I think that if many of the artists are forced out of Riverside, I think it's going to really kick off gentrification in many, many arenas. So I think one of the things we're looking to you for is we hope that there'll be some way that you can support keeping art space affordable in Easthampton. And I don't know if you want to give out the yellow sheets.
Yeah. I'll just get a copy.
And I have one.
And you have one, okay. So we can
And
just-
it's been
and then
very
the rest-
frustrating that we can't communicate directly with the board of directors. And again, we've all contributed to the arts. One of the artists started the art program at Riverside. And Riverside Industries boasts about its art program a lot. And even looking at reports that it gives to the state, you can see how they tout their arts program and the artists. So it's very discouraging.
And just to give a little more background information, in the meeting that we had with Lynn Ireland, she called the meeting and we all decided as tenants that we would go to the meeting, not challenge the information, just gather information and listen respectfully. And she started out with, a bullet point list of kind of how we should approach
Rules of
this.
engagement, yes.
Rules of engagement,
No
no
profanity.
swearing, that sort of thing. So she came primed for a real battle, and we didn't give it to her, which the next week she told Margaret and Greg, but it was such a good meeting. We're all shaking our heads and kind of biting our tongues because the comparables that they presented were things like the People's Bank headquarters building. Which is not the same as that. I think it's, what they're doing? I figured out this weekend, or at least I'm speculating, they call Riverside, One Cottage Street, a Class B office building. I think they want to be a Class B office building, so they're just calling themselves that. And like you were speculating, they want, security is very important for the clients. and they want to move the clients back into the building and maybe just rent the front part of the building as, professional offices. But those were inaccurate comps in terms of what the building actually is at this point. But now that Eastworks is bumping their rent up, see, they didn't put Eastworks or Keystone or any of the other what we would consider comparable buildings on the list. It was all weird stuff, just nothing like Cottage Street. But now that their influence is bumping up the rent, it's almost like they're producing the comparables in the buildings that they didn't choose to use. They're influencing the rent to go up. So I don't know.
Yeah, so one of the comps was the Silk Mill building in Florence, which is Easthampton. 2 stories, residents on the top floor, 1 space down below. And that was considered a Class B building, and it's renting for about $16.65 a square foot. And so these were the comps they used. Another was a building in West Springfield where a subsidiary of Merck Pharmaceutical is the anchor tenant. We consider Cottage Street to be a Class C building. It is zoned for manufacturing. If it's zoned for manufacturing, it is not a Class B building. And so we would just like to understand where they want to go. And I think the recalcitrants in meeting with us, or being willing to meet with us, tells us they have other plans. We just want to know what the plans are. Because if some of us shrink within the building enough to be able to pay that rate, or we move within the building, or we start sharing space within the building, given that they want to move their clients somewhere else in the building, we could be displaced in a year. And we just want to know, because we would be happy to figure out a way that a lot of us could stay maybe in the back of the building or something. We want to work with them, and we're not being given the opportunity. And so I do think this has greater ramifications for the city of Easthampton.
The first letter, the CEO said they figured that the rent, a comparable rent would be $19 a square foot. So they were asking us then in the first letter for $18 a square foot. Then when we responded, 2 days, within 48 hours, it went from $18 a square foot to $15 a square foot. And again, all the comps that we've come up with are much more in the locked all the time now. So if you have a workshop or a class, you either have to pay somebody to sit by the door to open it or to figure out a way to get your clients to your workshops. Also, my studio's over the day room, and all day there's a great deal of noise coming up from the day room that's difficult for some people. So there are things that we accepted because we had a good relationship and we thought we had reasonable rent. My rent would go up 62% a month, and so I can't leave. 3 artists have already left.
Ours
So-
would double. Our rent would be $50,000.
So I don't know if you have questions.
Have any of you, not any of you, but do you have a lawyer?
Commercial tenants have very few rights in Massachusetts. I mean, almost none. So I did contact a real estate lawyer, and they said there's really not much we can do. We did form a tenant association, which I think is helpful for the cause, because we are speaking with one voice.
Right.
But in terms of legal help, I'm not finding a lot, but I could be calling the wrong people too.
What about the board of directors? Have you talked to them or?
They won't talk
They
to
won't
us.
talk to us.
They won't talk?
Yeah, they
Well, I was thinking the board of directors was different from the.
No, the board. We wrote to the board.
Oh, okay, so when you
So-
were talking about, I thought they were.
Correct.
No,
No, we
separate.
wrote twice to the board asking, and they're not responding to
Well, we
us.
had been told that they all were aware of the rent increases, and then we found out that a couple of them had no idea that it was
Right.
happening. So there's a lot of misinformation.
Right, which is why we
also.
wrote to the board in the first place, because we were told that, well, the CEO told us that the board was unanimously in agreement with this increase. And then people know a couple board members, they're personal friends, so, that's tricky, right? But they talked to a couple people who said, we didn't know about this. And so we wrote to the board, which didn't make them particularly happy, the management of Riverside. And when we were in a meeting with them, and I said, we were told this was unanimous, but then we understand it's not. And the chair of the board said that was deliberate, to keep board members in the dark. And that is concerning. The chair of the board also said that if we keep this up, they will hire a property management company. And I assumed that this was trying to advocate for ourselves, and they have in fact hired a property management company. So that adds a lot to the bottom line
Do you have
as well.
signed leases?
Do we what?
Have signed leases?
Yes, although my lease is about a page and a half long, and it was signed in 2008. It has never been updated. We're supposed to be getting new leases. They haven't arrived yet. So we're supposed to be making a decision about our whole business and where we're going and what we're doing, and we don't have leases in hand.
I realized last May, I got a letter, their fiscal year is July 1st. So last May 30th, I got a letter saying that you're a value tenant and therefore we're going to only raise your rent 5%, and that rents are typically $10 to $12. So a year ago, they acknowledged that a square foot rental cost would be $10 to $12, and 1 year later, they're saying $18. So it's not holding together.
No.
We are working with a group in Boston called Art Stay Here, because what we're going through, artists group around the state and country have gone through. So she is helping to guide us along.
Bottom of the
That's
yellow sheet,
okay.
you see that.
And is that open to everybody,
Yes,
or is that?
yes.
Okay,
It's in the blue room at, Yeah.
great.
How long ago was it that Riverside took ownership of, or was given the building?
about 40 years.
1976.
Yeah.
Does anyone know, like, the actual contract that sold them the building for $1 or nothing? Like, who has read that contract? There's gotta be some stipulations in it that says only Riverside, a nonprofit, can run this business as a nonprofit. And I'd be wondering what other, corollaries are in that actual paperwork.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but the first CEO of Riverside, Ron Battelle, for many, many years, part of so that the first few CEOs did see the artist as complimentary and as part of the vision of the building. And now the new CEO, who's been around about 2 years, says, no, you're not part of the mission. You don't have any role to play anywhere.
But it still seems to me as tenants, you still have legal rights,
Very
which are
limited.
being voided for some reason. I mean,
If,
That's-
but if our lease is year to year and we're at the end of
But
the
if you
fiscal
haven't-
year,
okay.
ours doesn't actually say that. Ours is very vague on everything. The only condition in it is that they agree to keep the temperature at 68 degrees in the building, which I assure you has never happened. But that was okay, I think the narrative that I think is concerning to a lot of us is that somehow we have been gypping Riverside over the years by paying less than market rate. And we paid what we were charged. And sometimes there was a 3% increase, sometimes there was more. 1 year they wanted to do 30% in 1 year under Chargentis, the previous CEO, and we talked to them and we worked it out and we saw 10% that year instead of 30. So we've been able to do that, and I think because the new people who are managing this process don't really have a strong connection to Easthampton and to the history of the building, there's a lack of understanding that when someone like Daniel moved in, it was not in good shape.
It was the Wild West.
Yes, and we built.
I don't, but it seems to me that it seems to be basic part of landlord-tenant law that you are entitled to legal representation regardless of what they're telling you. And to be told by certain real estate lawyers, that's perhaps not the best lawyers to.
Right, I don't know who to talk to.
Well, we can, I think it's a good suggestion, and there's one group of lawyers who help in the area of the arts, so I think we can pursue that, we're just not optimistic.
It's not necessarily the arts either. You are just.
Right, we're commercial tenants.
You're
Right.
tenants, period.
Right.
And you
Because
have.
we're not all artists over there. There's about 102 tenants, and
Yeah.
about
That's my
80
question.
of us are artists,
Right.
we believe. I mean,
Those
but
were my two questions.
what?
But how many are artists?
About 80,
80.
yes, of the 102. There's
So
a
like
couple social workers in
80%.
there, there's other
Yeah.
people who do different things, but most of us are
Artists.
in the arts community.
No, another question, I'm sorry. The condos and the apartments on this end, are they part of Riverside? No, it's a different building?
Their rent is going up too, and they're organizing as well.
But Riverside owns that property as well?
No.
No, okay.
So that's a totally separate. And Riverside did have developers come in and look
Yeah.
at our facility, I imagine for affordable housing or something, but it lacks egress everywhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it can't take a denser population that is actually living there. So they've concluded that they are stuck with the building.
Well, it is a bit of a labyrinth.
It is, I mean,
We're
there's
getting
no
lost in
doubt,
there one
and they do spend a lot of money on the building, and we
Yeah.
understand that they have some major expenses coming up for fire suppression and some other things that we feel we could help with a capital campaign. We feel we could do some things to help alleviate this burden. In the budget they presented to us that was just the building expenses, they included about $300,000 in capital expenses, but they included it as an annual expense, which it isn't. That's a totally separate thing.
Yeah.
And so, if you take that out of it, at our current rent, we're pretty close to meeting that nut that they put out in the building all the time. So it's just very mysterious. They just very much want 15, and they're doing everything they can to justify it. But that prices us out, most of us.
Did you have a question?
Well, I was just gonna say in the late 1990s, or early 2000, I had a studio in the Art and Industry Building in Florence, and a similar thing happened, and all of a sudden, the tenants had to get together. There was gonna be a huge increase, and there were the windows needed replaced. Everything was a mess. But it's there was this woman, Diana Stallone, and she was a lawyer in the building, and I just feel like she really organized everyone. And then there was back down, there was no. Something effective happened. I wish I could remember what it was, but she was very key, and she is a practicing attorney, and I feel like it might be, worth talking to her and saying, what was, how were you guys able to because I remember going to meetings in her studio, but it was 20 years ago,
It is a challenge that they're a nonprofit. That is certainly a
Right,
challenge.
that's different, because this was the building was gonna be sold, and new owners were planning to do invest and raise the rents, and people just went berserk, and it was really, they backed off, so there was a sale, but so I was thinking the fact that I just can't believe Riverside Industry would do that. I worked there in the art department, with Denise a long time ago, and I'm
Denise
just
started.
how can they right? And galleries in Easthampton showed the work of the artists that,
The sculpture right outside pays homage to the building. It is all about that building and all about our artists. So.
But they don't know the artists.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to take the time to get to know us.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So being a nonprofit, it definitely is more unique and challenge, but there's definitely ways that you could use that to your advantage. Like, they have to have, by Massachusetts law, an annual meeting where anyone can come and like ask the board of directors questions. So do you guys know when their annual meeting is? So that's like something you should look into. But otherwise, they also have to have like a charter that they have to, abide by, that has like, what their mission is. And I think like you can approach, I don't know how, but like you have to get the ear of somebody and basically either cajole them or, convince them that they're not fulfilling their mission. I do think a lawyer is always a good idea. And if I was a law office asking for, again, a review of their charter and the contract for this building, just saying the tenants association would like to see that information, just like light a fire.
Are you all familiar with GuideStar?
Yeah.
Because all nonprofits have to register, and all financial documentation since the beginning has to be included there. Their 990s, that's all public information. Now they have it where you have to set up you have to register, you have to create an account, but it's free to do that. It's very simple.
No, we've looked at that.
Yeah, that's
And they pay $6 a square foot.
Right.
I guess I'm
Riverside
just-
for theirs.
For this space, they pay.
piggybacking on what Stephen was saying, which is just like as you're doing, gathering that kind of information also,
I
just
think-
to
I think so
like,
too.
as part of the education, the
Good
self-education
start, all
process.
right.
I mean, what would happen if, this is crazy, but like if you guys just formed a union and just like left? Just banded together and.
We need to find a space.
Yeah, you have to find a
We
space.
need
I
to
just
find a
like, I
space.
just wanna like, how could you like, I don't know.
We've thought about, could we form a nonprofit
Uh-huh.
and get grant money in order, because there are capital grants available. There's things that we could probably do as an artist community, but we want some guarantees that we have space in the building.
So you formed a
We don't have enough
tenant
time.
association? So,
It's not a legal entity.
okay, I think we were talking the other night at Art Walk. The Massachusetts Cultural Council, as you may know, has a facilities grant. Any kind of public-private partnership, is very attractive to funders in general. And again, I'm gonna say, yes, I'm the arts and program director, I'm also a local artist, I also have some experience with real estate developers, and, I think because they're a nonprofit, there are so many ways for them to go about making more money, fixing the building, and they seem very set on a certain
Yes.
way to proceed. But they're a little bit, aside from damaging relationships, et cetera, they seem to be biting themselves in the foot. So I guess I just, I do wanna be mindful of time.
Yes,
I wanna be
yes.
mindful of public speak and what
Yes.
it's for. I just personally wanna thank you all for being here because it makes a difference. We are a board who will listen, we are listening to you. And I just wanna say to our committee, this will have, yes, this is about individual artists, the individual artists you all happen to be. It's also about, it will have very significant impacts on the arts and cultural
Yes.
history, community, direction, reality, possibility in the city of Easthampton. however this goes. And I think there are real opportunities here, and I think sometimes great opportunities come from how we all respond to like deep misunderstanding, deep mistrust, deep, whatever's not, it's like when tension happens, it's how we respond. There's no guarantees, of course, and it depends on a lot of factors, but I do think, this is the first of our industrial buildings that are getting looked at in this way, right? Where this like level of tension is rising. But we all are very aware that the last 15, 20, 30 years in Easthampton, 40 years has been like moving toward this, gentrification is about imbalance, and it ultimately becomes about displacement. So I do think, when it comes to those things also, it's a very significant reality for us to be paying attention to. I will There are some very significant changes taking place within the city planning department where Easthampton City Arts lives in the city. Our planning director left in the beginning of March. There was a hiring process to hire a new planning director. An offer was made. There was a hiring process. There were great candidates, blah, blah, blah. The job was offered to someone who accepted, and she withdrew her acceptance less than 2 weeks, like 2 weeks ago. We learned like a week and a half ago maybe. And our senior planner is resigning, and her last day is June 13th. Wow. And our conservation agent had already given her notice for August 1st. So our two senior leadership positions in the planning department are vacant and most likely will be. They've posted at least the city planning director position, but it could be like another 3 months before someone is sitting there and has to get caught up to speed on like Union Street and Main Street and all these things, including this. So I think it's very significant. I'm like, this whole time I'm like, I wish Jeff Bagg was sitting here, our former city planner, because there's just like a lot of knowledge that I personally don't have that experience, and I don't know all the ins and outs within the municipality in the way that he does. So I just want to share that because it's significant, I think.
Yeah, we also will be going to city councilors and hope to meet with the mayor as well.
Good. I was glad to hear that the other night, because I think the arts is one aspect. And as we know, the arts are very integrated throughout, economic development. It is like how Easthampton has become what it is. And so I think really getting this on the radar of as many municipal channels as possible is a smart way to go about it.
I just have one question. There's a cultural committee meeting on Wednesday that's listed.
There's a cultural district
Yeah, cultural
committee.
district.
It's the
Can we request to be on your agenda at another meeting, and we might have more specific asks at that point?
I would do that. We're too late to amend an agenda for Wednesday because we need 48 hours notice, and it's the last meeting before.
No, for
Yeah,
your
in the
next meeting,
future.
yeah.
Yes,
Do you meet monthly or?
we do. We meet on the second Wednesday of every month at 9 a.m. We sometimes take the month after Cultural Chaos off, but it will be posted when we're meeting.
Because I think the Cottage Street was a foundational part of establishing the cultural district.
It is, and it is in the footprint of the district, and it's a very significant component. I would also, I mean, again, I would talk to the Massachusetts Cultural Council. I think that as a state agency, this is just important for them to know. It's happening all over. And there are some real success stories. Who at the Massachusetts Cultural Council could recommend a lawyer, could inform you all about the best way to move forward with your organizing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think they should know, because I think it's like collectively, it's important for them to know too.
I think I do that because I don't know a lot about cultural districts. I know more about historical districts, but like were it to be a historical district, absolutely, like the uses of the building are considered, integral to that. So you can't just change it.
Good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Good
all.
information.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Well, we'll.
Yeah, and this is great. I didn't realize this, the community meeting.
Talk to Diana Stallone. I
Okay,
just
good,
think she
thank
was so helpful and she really was, I don't know,
Well-
she's a,
You all know this? That was 2006.
I was gonna say, that was awfully familiar.
what is it? Let's see.
It's the,
The old
Thank you
directory.
all. Very first thing we did.
Yeah, the old directory.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Okay, good. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And Cindy
Wednesday at noon,
Sperry,
Daniel.
if you don't all know,
Wednesday
is
at
from
noon?
Oxbow.
Wednesday at noon, still.
Oh, okay.
And is a member
When?
of the
Oh, you
ECA
would-
coordinating.
The meeting you used to go
Diana
to.
Steiner
Oh,
was
okay.
gonna talk to you.
We're
She
still
had
there.
already.
Wednesday
I
at
don't know,
noon.
but-
Wednesday at noon.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right.
The building is being cleared out.
Yeah.
This is just roughshod.
What do they wanna use?
They wanna develop it for commercial office space. They're clearing everybody out. The people that'll be left will be shoved in the back, or the rest will be so prohibitive at some point that they will just, they will all leave. They should have some sort of challenge to this. It may come to naught, but they're just being shoved out.
I think that's kind of what they're trying to do.
And they have leases, they have legal rights, and they don't seem to think so, but anyways,
Anyway, well, we should.
I'd like to see the paperwork from when they got the
yeah,
building.
this sounds fishy.
We should move on because we've got
Okay.
our agenda and
Before we move on, I do wanna just ask, so, and this is just a genuine question, like, this is a very significant thing happening in the city. We had members come to talk with us about it. This is the kind of thing where we decide if we add this to an agenda at a future meeting, if it's something we wanna continue to discuss.
I think
Since we're a city department, do we have any real authority to say anything other than to kick it upstairs to the city council?
I think that's for us to talk about.
Well, I would say, you mentioned, because they had asked about the cultural committee, you said sometimes you take the month off after cultural chaos. Given this,
Yeah.
I would say you cannot take the month off for cultural chaos for your next meeting. And that should be the top, maybe only item on your agenda. Because if I were part of the Cottage Street District, I would want to be
Yeah.
involved with this.
That's
And you
good.
can't wait for this kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
it's too long to wait, or it's too time sensitive to wait.
Yeah.
Cause I think, like, to your point, I think they should talk to city council. I think it's important for us
Yeah.
to know, especially given the updates you shared from the planning department. I don't know what we can do beyond amplifying, like, I think ECA should let people know on, like, social media that this meeting is happening, but there's not much else Cultural district probably has stuff that they could weigh in on, given that you've said there's all these requirements for being a cultural district. So that's probably more where the power lies in terms of what like we can do.
Yeah, I think that, I appreciate that. I do think that with the Cottage Street Cultural District Subcommittee, it's a subcommittee of this committee technically. And I think it's like, because it's public, there are limitations. Do all sorts of stuff.
Maybe, I didn't even think about this, the chamber, I didn't think to ask them if they talked to the Chamber of Commerce here. That would also be another possibility.
Yeah, they should talk to everybody. But I do think, I agree with everything you next agenda and then make it like invite somebody or from the board of Riverside to come and speak to us during our next meeting, since they'll be open for discussion, and make it public that like, you know, the public can come too. And make this an open forum, because I do think that is one value that we have. We are the, you know, constituted citizen body that is in charge of the arts. Boardroom in City Hall to like, you know, let it be known that we want. I would like to shed some more light on what is going on, because I do think that they're being kept in the dark. I do agree, like,
Sure.
This is exactly what's going on, is they're trying to clear everybody out, but we should get them to say so.
It doesn't sound like the board is wanting to talk to them. I don't know if the board would come to talk to us, but I mean, it's an idea.
It is an idea. I feel like something like that gets into, like, I would want to have a facilitator. Like, I just feel like that would require a lot of thought and preparation, and, you know, it would just like, I think it would not be, like, I think to host a forum like that, we would need to really get clear on the best way to do that.
One could send
Asking
to.
is like,
I think
just
fine,
to
'cause
have a
then-
discussion.
Because if this is at the end of June, then we could, if it's on the agenda, if there's follow-up, or if we can provide a forum for public speak for follow-up, then that might be nice to do it.
I like that, just to like have a placeholder.
And then I'll email that as a private citizen to all the board members individually and say, I expect to see you there.
Yeah, sure.
I have a really quick question, and it relates to this and cultural chaos. And there are people at the Oxbow who have studios in Riverside Industry, and they wanna like, you know, use the space in front of the gallery, which is gonna be for our little event. They wanna
Whenever you make space for a petition for anything,
you gotta,
you
okay,
legally have to make space for any opposing view
Yeah.
to be there too.
Yeah.
Do I think Riverside is gonna come with a petition? No.
Yeah.
But it is a precedent,
Okay.
and we always say no. Every year I tell people with petitions no, and that's why.
right, okay.
The other thing, and I had a
I mean, that makes sense, yeah,
candid
it's just,
discussion with Lynn Adams, one of the artists at Cottage Street. And the other thing is, we had so many people apply to table, and we have told so many people no. And so there's also just like, it's long past, and I told Lynn, I said, even, and we talked about this at our cultural district meeting. we don't want the petitions at the event.
Yeah.
We really don't.
Yeah.
Riverside has been one of the key organizing partners of Cultural Chaos this year.
So complicated.
It's
Isn't
just
that-
Reality
I just-
TV
It's so
show.
critical, though.
But what
Yeah.
I did tell Lynn is like, you can set up outside the district. Union Street is full of traffic,
Well, I mean,
like you
not that I'm
you
gonna
have
like
every
go with
right.
this, but it's a
Right.
public event. Can't they just walk up and down and talk to people? Like,
They can walk and talk, but we don't, I've talked to a few people in Yatspo who just feel like, no, we're not gonna put up a table, or no tables. If the artist exhibiting wanted to make this their cause, they could do it in the gallery, but that's not happening. So, I feel like that's the only way. If it was in the gallery and the artist was okay with it, which they're not, so. Cause when it's your show, you can make any statement you want, but I don't think, we want it to be fun and not, I get it, this is very clear. I think someone is supposed to call me, and that's why I wanted to ask you guys, so that I had good words to say.
Yeah, it gets tricky, it does get tricky.
So it's okay if you wanna walk around and talk and wear your t-shirt or your pin, but we're not making a specific space for,
For you,
also even have space for a table. It sounds like they do or no.
but we have our little prod thing, and we're doing we're making artist buttons, and I don't know,
You're doing what?
artist buttons.
Oh, okay.
And we're having, we're creating an interactive starry night, sort of like the
Oh,
Van
like-
Gogh experience,
yeah.
but no, very small.
Are you not doing the photo, the little booth,
Yeah, we're doing a different one.
oh, okay.
It's like starry night, where you can
Oh,
hold
okay.
moons and stars and rocket ships and dragon,
Oh,
be part
okay,
of
I see. Oh, I see what you're doing.
yeah. You'll see, Tracy.
That's always fun, I always love those.
It's great.
Yeah.
No, it's
never got down to that end of Cottage Street.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always stuck at the
we
other
had
end.
so much fun last year, so I'm psyched to.
Got pictures. So we'll put this on the agenda, in the course of the month, think about maybe, any ideas you have or, how to further the conversation. So anyway, with that, do you want to talk about, sort of the updates? And you wanted to, before we got into the updates, I think you had something you wanted to.
I told everybody.
Oh, you did. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure you all knew about the changes happening in the
Oh,
planning
okay.
department.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
And I was just told Tracy, I'll say it before I do the updates, but then as we were talking, I'm like, they should know,
Yeah.
because that's very,
Yeah, it's
that's
important.
gonna be at least 6 months, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
without a planner.
Can
Right
I
now,
can
in
I ask
Easthampton.
why? Did Jeff move on to another job or?
He said, he left, he said he wasn't looking, but he was offered a great gig, and it was kind of this doesn't, happen all the time.
Right.
So he did what was right for him and his family, and, went about it really responsibly, and it was good, he's done amazing work here. And then they had a hiring process, and, well, you heard the rest. And Jamie's leaving after 12 years.
So it's not going well.
It's a big surprise.
Are there underlying issues that are just beginning to become?
I don't know much,
Okay.
and haven't been asking.
Yeah, no, that's
because
all right.
it doesn't.
Seems just a little,
I just don't know the answers
Yeah,
to
yeah.
some of that.
But you do know the answers to our walk.
So some updates on Art Walk. We didn't meet in May, so we changed to the first Saturday since we all saw each other last. One of the things, after talking with Tracy, that I've started to do, so every month I reach out to all the Art Walk venues, I send an email, a little friendly reminder to post their listing, and I've started adding an Art Walk marketing component to that email. So it's just a list of what we've done to promote Art Walk, or what we'll be doing to promote Art Walk. So, so for the first art walk, for the first Saturday art walk, it was like 3 electronic newsletters, 1,000 to 1,500 opens each, 10 individual posts on Instagram and Facebook, 20 plus posts, shares, blah, 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 blah. So it was like 2,500 accounts reached, 400 accounts engaged, 12 radio ads on 3 radio stations across 3 days, one mentioned in the Gazette article about the June 1st art walk, 50 printed posters distributed in Easthampton and neighboring towns, 200 printed postcards that have all been shared at our recent events. And then new art walk banners, that's been a long time discussion. Every participating venue has gotten a banner. And then the other thing I've started to do is just to include all of our marketing. So it's like, we will promote the event, we will promote the different districts. Please share, please tag us in your share, so that's our cue to share what you make. So just trying to be a little more coordinated about it and a little more systematic so that there's like an expectation and there's a communication. And then
Hold on, is that where you do like hashtag Easthampton
not a
City Arts?
hashtag, but the @ sign.
Okay, for Insta,
That's
okay.
like, so
All right,
that.
I just have to be really clear, because a lot
Yes.
of people
The
don't.
hashtag,
Right,
we
and
won't
s-
get a notification about that. A tag, we get a
Okay.
notification, and then it's just an easy share to your stories. Do this,
Right.
do that. And then I also shared the hashtags that we use so that people, it's in Easthampton, has 12,500 posts now. I started that. That was like,
It's in Easthampton?
it's in Easthampton.
Oh,
That's a hashtag.
I started
That's
that
a
like
hashtag.
my 2nd or 3rd month here.
I'll start using it, I didn't know that.
How many?
Yeah, 12,500 like I think the last time I checked it was like, I'm like, oh my God, 6,000. So it's like, it's a thing. A lot of tattoo artists use it. There's like a lot of tattoos, but it's cool because it's just like, whatever.
Whatever happens in Easthampton is on that hashtag, right?
Art Walk Easthampton has 400 posts, and then hashtag Easthampton City Arts it was like 2,000 minus like 5 posts the other day when I checked. So, it's just kind of like, we were talking and it was like, yeah, they don't know all that. So when people are like, I didn't see any, and it's like, well, here's what we're doing. Like, that's not nothing. It's not to say it can't improve, but this is what we are doing, and has been happening. So, I've heard really, some mixed things about how it's going. Old Town Hall's been great. Cottage Street has been great. This has been very good for Cottage Street because the stores are open for most of it. And so it's just like, it's a big boost to what's already going on. Eastworks is still tricky. It really is. And I know we've talked about this, that there are reasons why it's tricky. I know that for the May Art Walk, there was a table with information. David made maps with like the different floors and we shared it on Instagram and Facebook. But the reality is, we all knew changing the day wasn't just gonna be like one fall swoop, like, yay. But I do think it was positive, and I've heard from people, families, elders, out-of-towners. Like, I've heard from a lot of people, thank you so much. I have not been to Art Walk in so long. That means a lot, because I don't often hear from all the people who are so happy. And like, I got thank you emails, like I'm always like a little nervous hitting the send on the announcements, because it's like, here we go. But people, I got so many like thank you, like happy letters from people. It's significant. That's like not nothing. So isn't simple, as we all knew.
Right, it's gonna take time, and even then, it's not simple, so. I did, just so you know, I did talk to Will at Eastworks today, because I wanted to find out about possibly putting a sign at East. Right now, they have the marquee, but we don't always have the marquee. And it's sometimes, if you're driving by, you don't see the marquee always, so it's better, because at one point they had a banner for farmer's market, and you could see that when you drove by. So I was just inquiring, he's like, he wasn't quite sure because there's open studios and there's the farmer's market and like vying for that space, but he is gonna talk to his staff. They're gonna try to, at least they're gonna have a discussion about the possibility of putting a sign somewhere. So, and we were talking about something that could be kind of permanent, like a generic art walk every Saturday from 4 to 7, that kind of thing, every first Saturday. So we will, it's to be determined if that will happen, but that was my ask. And I did say something about possibly, wayfaring signs in the building. That gets a little trickier, but I thought if we could come up with, and I told him I was just brainstorming here. This is just me throwing some, spaghetti at the wall in some sense. But if we could come up with some like fun sign that maybe could be like on the first floor, maybe up on a wall, that we could switch out, like either a chalkboard kind of thing or something that has little hooks, and we could, put different hooks on of who's participating or where they are. Something that could be creative and fun and look cool in the building.
And it's gotta be big, because the scale of that building, when you walk in and there's a card table, like by the entrance, it's like, there's this volumes, and you're just like, it's gotta be huge, because I just feel, I went to the Arts Walk in May, and it was like, I just felt like I feel swallowed up in there, I also want to, just thinking like, could anything be put on the bike path, like Arts Triangle with like this way to.
We could make lawn signs.
We could do lawn
signs are very effective communication tools in this city.
Right? And then just collect them so they don't get trashed, right? Just put them out for.
The thing about lawn signs, I think they're effective for certain things, but if you're seeing a lawn sign every day.
All year
long, you do not see it anymore. So I think there are better ways to have the same idea. I mean, that's why I wanted specific signs where it's not just a lawn sign that I miss, but, the bike path, that could be.
You know how when there's like a state park or something, they have that special brown color, and then there's like the writing in yellow, and it's kind of in size. It looks very official, like.
Yeah.
I don't know, Arts Walk.
Right, yeah.
And then like a little like mark, like 0.2 miles to Easthampton, point to Cultural Cottage to Old Town Hall or something. I just see this map, like this cool triangle that.
Yeah.
But I want to help. I want to help Eastworks, because it's like I feel like the bike path kind of pulls me. Like I go behind that riverside, and then it's like I want it to just. It's a little farther than I imagine. I'm always like, are we there yet?
And in my time here, I don't find that Eastworks, Paragon, or Mill 180 are at all this enormous empty space that gives you no sense of direction whatsoever. Unless you know that there are studios upstairs, you have to walk all the way down to either end of the building and then all the way back. It's just not it's a tough space.
I feel like, when we first joined this committee, we had the same kind of discussion, and I'm just gonna bring it up again just for the sake of it, because I feel like it sounds like Will is receptive to at least discuss some stuff, which is always positive, but I think we have to ultimately it may not be the best conducive location for Art Walk. So people who like want to participate, want to do that, we can highlight them as much as we can. They can highlight as well. But, you know, if you think about like Cottage Street or Old Town Hall, like those locations are naturally very conducive to this.
I know, and like, this is gonna sound like, I'm here, she be careful, thank you, she just tapped my hand, thank you, I'm not gonna say it. But what I will say, I'm gonna pivot. What I will say was the thought I was having before you said that, which is related, which is like, it's something that you said back, I think at like the November, December meeting. It's like, great that Tracy went and spoke to Will on behalf of ECA. But it's like, that signage helps his tenants. That like, if the tenants are coming together to say, hey, where's our sign? Like, we're putting all this effort and like money and time into this every month. Like, yeah. And I don't think I was gonna say what maybe some of you think I was gonna say. I just wanna say that on the record, like that I wasn't going like into an extreme
I
place.
have no idea what you're gonna
But
say.
it was just more like, yeah.
Well, I just want to say, I mean, he was receptive. It's a tricky thing because, and I understand as a landlord, you know, and signage and, you know, it can get tricky. And it's not that it's something they aren't talking about for their tenants, but the fact that we had the discussion, the fact that I'm going to follow up, that at least is something. And I think if we could come up with a cool visual and solution and present it, I think that would also be, like, I don't think, you know, he wants to have to solve our problems, because he has enough of his own.
And I think that's the issue is that it's not really our problem. It's their problem that we are trying to help them with. And I think that's been, like when David was on the committee, that was the fundamental, I think, butting heads that he and I would have is, I don't believe it's our problem at the core of it. I think we are part of it, but I think ultimately if Will and or his tenants, or if the tenants and or Will want to be part of Art Walk and it's not working, there's only so much we can do. Will can absolutely put up a bajillion different signs. There's a lot of room for more signage on the building. Does he want to? I don't know. You know, maybe him saying he'll talk about it with his staff is him saying, I'll talk about it with my staff, or it could be him saying, this is something I'll say to get this conversation to a close. If we don't know, I don't know Will, you know him better, and you live in the building, but if he really wanted to like put in some investment, there's a lot of stuff he could do or the tenants could do.
Well,
but
I
we
think
can't because we don't own the building.
Ultimately, I think it's individual spaces. I mean, I agree, ECA, we are an organization that is sponsoring Art Walk. We are not here to market everybody's business. Everybody's business should be marketing themselves.
And I will,
let me just finish.
Yes.
And I think each individual artist needs to also, you know, come up with, you know, their own posts, their own marketing, and not just throw their doors open and expect a bunch of people to come. They need to have events. They need to have outreach. We can promote that, but we can't do that for them.
Exactly.
And so in that sense, you know, I think everybody has a part to play in it. So anyway, I want to leave it there. I don't think we need to talk about this further. I think we've got other things on the agenda. But I felt very encouraged. So I'll just say that.
Okay. So public art, so I just want to say, ECA members, we have had 5 events in 7 weeks. Actually, if I count to back, actually, I'm just gonna tell you this. We have had 7 events in 8 weeks.
You want us to name them or?
You wanna
Mhm.
list them all?
And actually, if we wanna go 1 week further back, we will have had, oh no, it was that week, cause Art Walk hadn't changed.
Just list them.
Okay, so Art Walk, April Art Walk, the Voices of Easthampton poetry event, Ebby Russell's second opening at ECA Gallery, Have a Heart for Public Art, fundraiser brunch. So this is April 11th, Art Walk, April 13th, Voices of Easthampton, Ebby's show. Those were 2 different events that we put together. Have a Heart for Public Art, hold on Sunday, April 21st. May Art Walk on Saturday, May 4th. Saturday, May 11th was the public sculpture unveiling on Cottage Street. Art Walk was on June 1st. And Cultural Chaos, I'm like, what's the next one? Cultural Chaos on Saturday, June 8th. That's a lot for our. I also applied for a grant. I had a deadline on May, I think, 23rd. Today that I got in, and I also have another deadline. I didn't do the second one. I'm like, I'm just gonna bang them out, and I didn't. The second one's much more involved. It's a grant, it's an MCC grant, it's a new MCC grant for $6,000 for it's just like operations. So that's due on June 13th. So there's been a lot going on. Public art, our 2 public art events were very successful. We had a 100-person capacity for Have a Heart for Public Art. We sold 100 tickets, and we had silent auction items, and people made donations on top of that. So we raised more than $4,000 that will, I don't remember the exact number.
It was around 4,000.
Yeah. That will go toward refurbishing the mural on Pine Street. That, and as the Public Art Committee, we're talking about doing that in the middle of September. And we're working with the artists to do that, it's like something we've been talking about for a while. And then the public sculpture unveiling was very well attended. Mayor spoke, City Council President spoke, there were a number of
Artists spoke.
the artist spoke, there were a number of city council members there. I mention that because it's significant. We don't always get that kind of attention from city folks, so I appreciated that. The artists, of course, spoke, and it was beautiful, beautiful event, and the sculpture has been very, very well received. People,
Really cool.
I was there that morning, it had just been installed the day before, and people did not know who I was. I was just nearby, and people were just like, "Oh my God, this is so cool!"
Yeah.
People were engaging it and peeking in. So we have a public art meeting. Oh, and then Emerald Place, the new city. We got our second round of the design plan proposal today. Well, we reviewed it today, and I spoke to the artists this afternoon, gave them all the feedback, and then they have their final draft is due Monday, June 10th. I'll be filling in people about that on Wednesday. So yeah, a lot going on with public art. The other thing is
Yeah, that thing.
I just completely blocked those.
Well, it'll come to you.
Yeah. Okay. I think those are all the updates for
Great. We're gonna talk about Cultural Chaos and Porch Fest maybe, or not? Yeah.
And just, we have to leave in
Yeah.
a couple minutes, so,
Yeah.
if there's anything that, like, the cultural council update or anything.
Do you wanna talk about the cultural council?
Yeah, you
Since
wanna
you're
just
here,
go
I can
ahead?
give a quick 30-second overview. So we had, I think it was the same day, yes, or same weekend, the public art brunch, right?
That wasn't the same day as the
It was
House
the
of Art
next
Brunch.
week.
Yeah, so very close around that time, we had a reception for all the grantees from this past cycle. We had a really good turnout. Tracy was great, got us a space at abandoned building for was really lovely. So that was a really nice event. We are going to have a table at Cultural Chaos. So we've invited our grantees to come table with us if they'd like to be there, because I know a couple of them did not get tables, and so we've offered that as something. Right now, and I haven't even read your email yet, sorry, Pascaline, but right now we're just working on making sure everyone has the funding available to them. And then we're also going to be putting out a survey at Cultural Chaos and Beyond, where we have to every year figure out what the community wants. And so then that will help us determine what our priorities are. So when we start the next grant cycle in September, that will be how we start to review the applications that come in. So that's what we're working on.
That's awesome.
Where's your table? Oh, it's first
They
come,
don't know.
first served,
Yeah.
that's right. I should know that.
She'll be there.
I'll probably,
Over here.
I'll probably
I'll be
be
like- Buy the
towards the
donuts.
end of the street, because I think we'll probably be loading it at the same time, so.
All right,
All right.
thank you.
We usually put community tables down at this end of things.
Oh, I'll go wherever.
Fine.
It doesn't matter.
No donuts for you.
I, just off the record, I've never had one of your donuts.
Me
And
Why don't
I
you bring
used to
them to
not eat
meetings?
gluten, but those days are over, and I wanna make sure I get one.
No, well,
Like,
because
it's
our whole
bothering
thing is
me.
you have to have them hot and fresh. Like we don't like hold them for longer than 10 minutes after they're done.
Come off the chute and you get them right away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all I'll say are things are in really good shape for Saturday. Homestretch city, like I'm really,
You going on vacation?
I'm gonna go see my family after, yeah. So yeah, it's just been a lot. But things are in good shape. The Cottage Street Cultural District Committee has been incredible. Like, it's all happening. It's all just like playing itself out. Weather currently is not looking great,
I was
but
just gonna say, weather doesn't
like,
look
we
too
don't
good.
worry about it till Thursday. We don't even get real serious about this till Thursday. Went through this last year. It's like, it's like, there's a force field till Thursday, and then we'll start paying attention, and then we'll start making decisions. So yeah. Things are in good shape. We had started planning Porch Fest Saturday, October 5th, 1 to 5. And I just applied for that grant. We should meet again, like in the next, like soon. And just actually before I should get the thing.
We're gonna try to get some stuff up if we can. For,
Yeah.
Let me just give
We
you
just-
my login. I don't
we
know
don't have
what, I've
access.
talked to Bronwyn, she's like, they should have gotten the email, if they don't get an email, can I just send you my login and you can just go in and do that? I've done that before, it's
If
totally
you're
fine.
comfortable with it, that's fine, yeah,
I
feel free
am
to send it
comfortable with
over.
that because I had thought it last week, like, we gotta get
Yeah,
that up
'cause we were
before
just saying
Cultural Chaos.
We're gonna just go ahead and recreate the application forms.
Awesome.
So when we're tabling at Cultural Chaos, we'll have a little thing for
Great,
Porch
with the
Fest,
QR
so.
code again?
Yeah.
Let's do that, that's great.
And all we have to do is like change, last year's
Yeah.
to like this year.
Yeah,
This has nothing to do with Easthampton Porch Fest, but I was on my way to Concord a couple of weeks ago for an event, and I had the radio on in the car, and somebody was talking about Porch Fest in Somerville.
Oh, yeah, it was a big
Yeah, it was a big one.
Whoa.
In fact, the current exhibiting artist at ECA Gallery is from Somerville, and he was talking about portraits. I was like, really?
It's
Wow.
And I told him about you guys and how that was a big da 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 da.
It's it was funny just seeing like some of the comments before and after, like, you know, they had 10,000 people or
Yeah.
more, and you know, now it's just so big that like people are like, the city has to come in and start organizing this, because you know, there's 700 bands playing over like 400 different houses, and the city still says like,
So
you take care of
crazy.
it, like
Yeah.
we're not.
10,000 people are going around and,
Oh, yeah.
and
It was
it's-
very big this year because Guster, I don't know if you know that band, so the band members used to live in Somerville.
Yeah.
So they have a new album coming out, so they reached out to the people who live in their old apartment and they're like, we want to play on your porch.
Aw.
And so they were like, hey everyone, we're playing at Porch Fest this year. So there were like thousands of people
Yeah.
who came in. just
Guarantee
to
next
see
year
them.
there's going to be another big band
Yeah.
doing the same thing, because now it's a whole thing.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if the city.
how did the city handle it? They did, I mean, or how did,
How do the other
I mean-
performers feel about, is that okay? Are they psyched about that?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm sure it brings more people out,
Yeah.
but it's already popular. But yeah, because I mean, the Somerville Arts Council, which is like our equivalent, they're basically, if you look at their website for Porch Fest, they're basically like, here's the map, like, have at it.
Yeah, don't
Like,
ask
be
us.
nice to your neighbors.
Here's what
Yeah.
I'm gonna say. I know you two have to leave. The only other thing on our agenda is discussion about ECA capacity. I think it can wait till the summer. It's just a discussion. I think
didn't
before
have
we
to-
start adding new programs and new events, I just want us to just land a little bit together and just be thoughtful.
Yeah.
I think that's rather than the four of us having a chat.
right, so are we gonna just pack it up and finish up right here and,
I think we should.
yeah, so,
Okay.
all right,
Motion to
everyone,
adjourn.
thanks for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.